What if I told you that no one has the power to ruin your entire day, unless you hand that power over? Think about the last time someone said something that instantly changed your mood. Maybe it was a careless remark, a sarcastic tone, a message that felt dismissive. In a split second, your body reacted. Your chest tightened. Your thoughts raced. You felt heat rising. It felt automatic, unavoidable, almost justified. But here's what most people don't realize. The intense emotional surge you experience in that moment is primarily chemical. When you perceive a threat, even a social or emotional one, your brain activates a survival response. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood your bloodstream. Your heart beats faster, your muscles tense, your breathing shifts. This reaction is designed to protect you. But biologically, that chemical surge has a lifespan of roughly 90 seconds. After that, your body is ready to return to balance. So why do we stay angry for hours? Why do some people replay arguments for days? Why does one moment linger long after it's over? Because the body releases the chemicals. But the mind keeps rewriting the script. The first 90 seconds are involuntary. What happens after that is fueled by thought. You replay the scene. You imagine better comebacks. You interpret their tone. You question their intentions. You tell yourself what it meant. And every time you replay it, you trigger another emotional wave. It's like repeatedly pressing a bruise just to confirm that it still hurts. Understanding this changes everything. It means anger isn't something that controls you indefinitely. It's something you sustain, often without realizing it. We often say, "They know how to push my buttons." That phrase suggests helplessness, as if we're wired devices and others hold the remote control. But no one can press a button that isn't already installed. Those buttons are old memories. Past experiences, insecurities, deep values, unmet needs. If sarcasm triggers you intensely, it may connect to a time you felt belittled. If criticism feels unbearable, it may touch an old wound of not feeling good enough. When someone triggers you, they're not inserting something new into you. They're activating something that was already there. That realization is not about blame, it's about awareness. Because when you understand what's being activated, you gain the power to respond instead of react. Another truth that surprises many people is this. Anger is rarely the primary emotion. It is usually secondary. Anger acts like a shield. It rises quickly and loudly because it feels strong. But underneath anger, there's often something more vulnerable. Hurt, fear, embarrassment, rejection, shame, loneliness. Anger feels safer than saying, "That hurt me." If your partner forgets something important to you and you explode, what might be underneath that explosion? Perhaps a quiet thought, "Do I matter?" If your coworker questions your work and you snap, what might be underneath? Maybe a fear of being seen as incompetent. When you address only the anger, conflict grows. When you acknowledge the underlying emotion, connection becomes possible. Instead of saying, "You never listen," imagine saying, "I felt ignored just now." The second statement invites dialogue. The first invites defense. The space between what happens and how you respond is where emotional mastery lives. Most people react instantly because they don't recognize that space. It feels like trigger and reaction are the same event. But there is always a gap, sometimes just a breath long. In that breath, you have a choice. You can respond from impulse or from intention. Imagine receiving a message that feels passive-aggressive. Your fingers start typing a sharp reply. Your heart is racing. Before hitting send, you pause and ask yourself, will this response align with the kind of person I want to be? That question widens the space. It engages the rational part of your brain. It reminds you that you are not required to react immediately. There are people who seem uncheckable in tense situations. They aren't emotionless. They feel everything. But they have practiced extending that pause. Another powerful technique is developing what psychologists sometimes describe as the observing self, the part of you that can notice emotions without being consumed by them. Instead of, "I am furious," try, "I notice anger rising." Instead of, "This is unbearable," try, "I notice discomfort." This subtle language shift creates psychological distance. You are no longer fully identified with the emotion. You are witnessing it. Emotions move like waves. If you stand still, they pass. If you chase them or resist them aggressively, they feel stronger. Think about the last time you stayed calm in a chaotic moment. You likely accessed this observer state naturally. The key is learning to do it intentionally. Reframing is another transformative skill. What if the most difficult people in your life are not enemies, but teachers? What if each challenging interaction reveals an area where you can grow stronger? A critical supervisor may be strengthening your resilience. A demanding client may be sharpening your communication skills. A confrontational relative may be teaching you how to set boundaries. This perspective doesn't excuse harmful behavior. It changes how you internalize it. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim of other people's personalities and start seeing yourself as a student of emotional growth, you reclaim control. Boundaries play a crucial role in protecting your peace. Without boundaries, you absorb other people's stress and frustration. With boundaries, you can remain compassionate without becoming overwhelmed. A boundary might sound like, "I'm open to discussing this, but not if voices are raised," or "I can listen for a few minutes, but I don't have the energy for a long conversation right now." Boundaries are not barriers to connection. They are structures that make healthy connection possible. Taking a timeout is another underused skill. When you are emotionally flooded, your thinking brain temporarily loses influence. Continuing the discussion in that state often leads to words you regret. Saying, "I need a few minutes before we continue," is an act of maturity. It allows your nervous system to settle and your clarity to return. Triggers are not random. They form patterns. Certain tones, behaviors, or personality traits may consistently activate you. When you begin mapping these patterns, you reduce their power. Ask yourself, what do these situations remind me of? When did I feel this way before? What belief about myself gets activated in these moments? The answers reveal the roots of your reactions. Another layer to consider is the story you create around events. You don't respond to reality directly. You respond to your interpretation of it. A short email can mean rejection or efficiency. A delayed reply can mean disrespect or busyness. Your interpretation shapes your emotion. When you challenge your automatic narrative and ask, "What are other possible explanations?" you interrupt unnecessary emotional spirals. True emotional mastery isn't about suppressing anger or pretending to be calm. It's about allowing the initial wave, recognizing the story, and consciously choosing the next step. For the next 7 days, practice one simple habit. When you feel triggered, say internally, "This is a 90-second wave." Breathe slowly. Notice your body. Do not engage in mental storytelling during that time. Just observe. You may find that clarity emerges naturally once the chemical surge fades. The people you admire for their composure didn't eliminate their emotions. They trained their responses. They practiced pausing. They practiced reframing. They practiced choosing peace over pride. Imagine the freedom of not carrying every slight for hours. Imagine reclaiming the mental energy you currently spend replaying arguments. Imagine becoming someone who responds thoughtfully even in tense moments. Emotional strength is not about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. And here's something worth reflecting on. If anger truly lasts only 90 seconds unless you feed it, how many hours of your life have been extended by stories you didn't need to tell? The next time you feel the surge begin and you notice the urge to replay it, what would happen if you stopped mid-thought and allowed silence instead? What might you discover about yourself in that quiet space? Because in that pause, the one most people ignore, there is a deeper level of control, clarity, and calm waiting to be accessed. And once you learn to step into that space consistently, you may begin to wonder, if you can master your reactions, what else in your life has been more within your control than you ever realized?